This week's episode is sponsored by Helio Gas Detection. Hey everyone, this is Letty for the Smash and Skull Sessions. I'm joined by David Bruno from Summoning the Lich. David, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm all good. Got home from work. I was at Green Day yesterday, so I'm a little bit tired, but I'm grand.
Nice. That's awesome.
It is pretty cool. So to our listeners who maybe haven't heard of you guys before, could you introduce yourself and your role in the band?
Yeah, I'm David Bruno. I do vocals in Summoning the Lich. We're a fantasy-themed death metal band. We're on Prosthetic Records, and yeah, we play fantasy death metal.
I've never heard of that genre before, fantasy death metal. Sounds so cool.
I enjoy it. I don't know what else to call us. I feel like we kind of we dabble in little bits of other genres other than death metal, so like putting a pin in it. Yeah, it becomes, a lot of people want to call us different like subgenres. So for me, it's just like, I'll call it my own fantasy death metal.
I mean, we've got tank metal, so why not like fantasy metal?
Right, exactly. I mean, like everything's written to coincide with the theme. Like we want it to sound fantastical and spooky while also still being quintessentially death metal. So, it fits, in my opinion.
Fair. So you described your sound there, fantasy death metal. Who would you like your biggest influences be for the band?
Obviously the Black Dahlia Murder is like a huge influence, especially on Ryan, our guitarist, like one of his absolute favorite bands growing up of all time. Bands like Job for a Cowboy, The Faceless, and then, we all have like pretty different music tastes that we bring to the table, but those were kind of the core bands. Through the Eyes of the Dead, things like that. The bands we grew up with in the 2000s that were like a part of the scene when we were really kind of just getting really active in it, in our like teenage years.
Awesome. And have you checked out the Black Dahlia Murder's new single?
Yes, and it's amazing. It was everything I wanted it to be and more, honestly. It exceeded my expectations, and my expectations were incredibly high because it's that was the only path I could imagine forward for them. I had no idea what exactly they were going to do after the loss of Trevor, and yeah, when they announced that Brian was stepping over to vocals and that Ryan Knight was coming back in on guitar, I was like, it was like a light bulb. It was like they found the path forward, the perfect path to carry on. And sure enough, I mean, I think that single, just shows all of us that like, yeah, they made the right call, and they crushed it. It's out of the park. Just amazing.
Yeah, because they recently played Dublin, and from what I heard, it was mental.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, he's been doing like live vocals while playing guitar for years now. And he always sounded good. Like anytime he would do vocals live, it wasn't like I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like somebody just doing something to fill in. It was like, oh, that's cool. It adds like a dynamic. So I think he, honors Trevor's sound and style while also doing like definitely his own flavor of vocals. And yeah, I mean, it's perfect. I'm just so stoked. 11 out of 10. I'm excited about it.
I've still to play catch up on that. I've just been at so many gigs. It's kind of hard to keep up.
For sure. I'm sure it's been a crazy year for shows like everywhere. Internationally, I've just been seeing some of the wildest tours this year. It's awesome.
So wild, but so good.
Yeah. It's great for us like that are going to shows, and well, I wish I was going to more shows. I got a 5-year-old at home, and I'm doing the Lich thing and all that kind of stuff. But one day I'll be making it out to more shows again.
I'll enjoy it while it lasts then.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Your new album, Under The Reviled Throne, is out the 26th of July. How was the recording process for it?
The actual recording process was amazing. Per usual, we worked with Jack Daniels, and he's at the time it was Sicktone Studio. They've moved into a new location and rebranded as the Armory Recording Company. But yeah, we had an amazing time with him, and then Elisha Mullins did a lot of the like kind of interlude stuff on the album, some of the programming, like as far as like the synths and that kind of stuff that kind of really put a bow on everything. It sounded really great. And then during the mixing process was an absolute nightmare outside of basically all of our control. Jack had like, we knew it was going to be a little bit after we recorded to mix it, just because of like his schedule and stuff, which we were fine with. And then he was in his new studio finally and had some crazy stuff happen with the power there. And then he basically got behind because he was having to do all this stuff to fix his studio that was supposed to be move-in ready. And so we were like, yo, dude, like, you know, we weren't on a strict time frame, so we were able to wait. And then by the time his mixing came, I was having tons of health issues. I was in and out of the hospital, just with like crazy like kidney stones, and I like rolled over in bed and had a random like hole tear in my lung, which like,
Oh God.
how does that happen? But yeah, so it was like the communication was just, you know, very delayed with like mix notes and like getting back and forth on certain things. So like, yeah, like I said, it was like some weird stuff outside of all of our control, but like it just took way longer than we thought it was going to. So we're so excited that it's like finally done and out and like coming out into the world, because like it was a long process, and you know, it always is a long process, and there's so many like moving gears and things, but for so much to happen outside of anyone's control was just like, we're cursed.
You literally have summoned the Lich with it, like.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, we rolled a natural one so many times in a row. But we're here.
Exactly. You might not have an answer for my next question then, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a favorite memory from recording the album?
Favorite memory. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good ones. We had a lot of fun tracking. I think honestly, my favorite memory was like not in like a, oh, I love the struggle, but we tracked a song that I had written on guitar, the Void Gate, and it was basically like I kind of finished writing it right before we were going into the studio. No one else was really familiar with it. I didn't really know like exactly, you know, we had run through it maybe a couple times at practice, kind of getting a general idea of how everyone was going to feel about it, and that was it. And just seeing everybody bring their flavor to the table to something that like none of us were really super prepared for, because usually when we go into the studio, we have everything pretty buttoned up. So it's just like, you know, very minor things that we're playing with. But just to see all the guys step up around stuff that I had written and like amplify it and just bring it to that next level and make their own changes and make it better. It was just really cool, like for me personally. So that was like a personal favorite. And then just the amount of times we got to go to Burritoville. It's just a burrito place right down the street from the studio, and they make the wildest burritos. So all of our Burritoville trips.
What's your go-to order?
I get the I I get the chicken and waffle burrito.
Oh my God.
It's like literally fried chicken and waffle and like a hot, like a spicy cheese, and then maple syrup, and then I get double syrup.
That
Yeah.
is that is the wildest combination I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's not even like a real burrito. They have real burritos too, but that one's, I don't know. It's just, it's good. It's tasty.
I need to get my burrito place to add that to the menu. Like I need to
Right.
try that.
It is a wild concoction they made.
I've been jamming out to your newest single, Return to the Soil. It's so epic. Is there a story
Thank you.
behind the song?
Oh yeah, there's a story behind everything. So everything's like super uh not the what's the word I'm looking for? English. Very like everything we do is in world. It's all based on the world of Arias that I've created. It's all lore, right? So it's very lore driven. The story behind this, it's the first song on the album. So it is telling basically the last album, the Lich has laid waste to the nation of Rodor. And this song is him essentially announcing basically that he's fallen completely to madness at this point, and his new goal is now to just wipe out all who would oppose chaos upon the entire planet of Arias. So it's basically his declaration of domination on all, and their spread into the wastes so that they can make their way to the nation of Bastel, so that they can basically get their fleet of ships to spread across the rest of the planet.
That's so cool. That is so, so cool.
I think it's fun. It's been a lot of fun writing. We finished when we were writing the first album, and we decided to do the whole trilogy story and really go heavy into the lore. That was basically when I wrote the story for this album and the album we'll release after this, our third album. So doing this album was like a completely different experience because we had a story, so we were able to kind of write the music more intentionally, especially, because we would write about half the album just writing naturally and pick which songs the riffs would fall into. And then we'd say, okay, these are the rest of the songs and what they need to sound like thematically, because like the mood shifts in the story, so we needed to do this. And that was really a different experience from the last album, so it was really awesome to do.
That sounds really cool because I was talking to some of my friends and I've discovered like the Lich creature through Adventure Time. And then
Yes, I love Adventure
yes.
Time.
And then I discovered you guys like, write about D&D and I thought, oh, maybe the Lich exists out at Adventure Time.
Yeah, the Lich is everywhere. I'm not sure what story first used the Lich, but D&D definitely was like a big popularization of the Lich. There's a Lich called Vecna that was in Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, what the character in Stranger Things wound up naming the creature after. Let's see if it'll come back. There we go. And yeah, that kind of changed the game. It was like a really compelling, really terrifying bad guy that had just immense magical power. And ever since then, I've seen liches. We've had a whole expansion, Wrath of the Lich King, in World of Warcraft. Obviously, Adventure Time. There are all kinds of all kinds of different liches. People have argued that Sauron is like somewhat like at least close to what a lich is, which I kind of disagree with, but nevertheless, people do argue it. So yeah, it's in a lot of different pop culture, but Adventure Time is a personal favorite of mine, and the song Descend is actually like my love letter to the Adventure Time lore. There's a bunch of references tucked in there.
That's cool. Who's your favorite character from Adventure Time? I gotta ask.
Favorite. Oh, that's hard. Probably, if I really had to pick a favorite, it's probably BMO. I just love BMO. BMO's so much fun. There's so many good BMO moments, especially as the show got like more serious and BMO like had to kind of mature with the show a little bit. It was like, yeah, that was yeah, it was just the loss of childness. And some of that was like, oh man, this is hitting way too hard for a kid's cartoon about a fantasy land. But yeah, I love BMO. I had a BMO shoe charm for my Crocs, and it fell off on one of the tours
Oh,
we were on. Yeah, I have to get another one.
mine would be Ice King. I just love his vibe.
Oh, Ice King's so good, and Tom Kenny, like, how can you resist? Tom Kenny's one of the best voice actors ever. So him jumping on and doing Ice King was, yeah, I was on board as soon as I saw that he was doing a voice on the show back when the first season aired, just because I grew up with SpongeBob, and yeah, and it seemed like something I would be into. I was actually working from home at the time doing call center work when it like started to air, and I would have it on every time in the background, just have it on mute, and in between calls just turn it back up and try and get as much as I could. It was a fun time.
I think I started watching it when I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah, I would have been like 20. So I'm getting old.
I'm 22 now and I look back at it, I was like, oh my God, that was so long ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's about right. I'm 33, so
It's crazy. It's madness.
yeah, what a good show. I love it.
So, so good. If you could collaborate with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh man. Um, any musician,
And it doesn't have to be for someone in the Lich.
Lady Gaga. Yeah. I love Lady Gaga. I think she's one of the most prolific pop writers of our time, and I think she gets like putting on a show, but also like doing things, as naturally as you can. Like you watch her live performances, videos of her live, and she's not using a ton of auto tune or anything. Like she is really just out there doing her thing. I think she's doing like a jazz residency right now. She's doing like a piano. It's like piano jazz in Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah, and she's all over the place and great actress too, and it's just yeah. I mean, she would be somebody I would love to. Not that I ever would, but yeah, that would be cool.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, she's so well-rounded as like a songwriter, a singer, a dancer, and an actress.
Yeah, she's the whole package, and my wife would just be like ecstatic. She'd be like, oh.
It's gonna
So
be
that would
really
be
cool seeing like her interpretation of Harley Quinn.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think I think she's a great choice. I think she brings it to the table. So, um,
It's
yeah,
gonna
I mean,
be
like, I can't imagine it's not going to be good.
exactly. It's gonna be interesting to see because we're all like so used to Margot Robbie to
That's
compare.
true. And yeah, and part of the problem is like Margot crushed it, right? So it's
Yeah.
like you do have these shoes to fill. And even like, yeah, I mean, plenty of actors and actresses have had to go into roles and they're great, but they're still filling like these giant shoes. And it's got to definitely be intimidating, right? So, but I'm sure she crushed it.
I mean, she crushed A Star Is Born, so
Yeah, and I loved. I was actually on my honeymoon, and we were staying in the Stanley Hotel, which is where like The Shining is based out of, and where he like wrote that, where Stephen King wrote that book. It's like super haunted hotel in like an hour north of Denver in Estes Park, or an hour and a half, hour 50 minutes, something like that. And we were staying there, and the episode of American Horror Story Hotel, the premiere of that season, like aired that night. So it was like we're staying in a crazy haunted hotel, and it's American Horror Story Hotel. And I had no idea Lady Gaga was going to be in it because I wasn't like following that show really. So, and then she was in it, and she was great, and I was just like, oh, I'm stoked.
I didn't even know she was an American Horror Story.
Yeah, I think it's season 4 or 5. It's Hotel. It's American Horror Story Hotel.
All the Lady Gaga fans watching, check out that season.
Yeah, do it.
Your vocals are so so heavy and brutal. Like, how do you keep your voice in check?
So like I was fortunate to be both like a choir kid when I was younger, so I had like the background in breath control, and I kind of understood like not to push things when I felt like I was like getting wear and tear. So I kind of found my way through, because in the early days, in the early 2000s, it's like we didn't have YouTube and all these like tutorials on how to and how to not scream. I mean, Zen of screaming wasn't even really a thing yet until kind of later than I had learned to scream. But I was really fortunate and just kind of approached it from more of a voice acting perspective, because I was obsessed with cartoons, and like I watched a lot of like panels of voice actors, and I would go to conventions and see like people talking about stuff and just watch it. And then when YouTube did come out, watching videos about how a lot of these voice actors approach making monster noises, right? Because the way I saw it is like these guys go into the booth and they record some crazy monster, some like yelly character for like an 8 hour shift. It's like, how could you do that and then come in the next day, or like come in like even a couple days later? Like that's, you go up there and do a set, you're only talking like a half hour to maybe, 80 minutes, 90 minutes if you're a headliner. Um, and doing a big headlining set. So, I couldn't imagine. So it was like I listened to a lot of what they were talking about and how they were talking about control and using completely different vocal techniques and applying those with like different breathing styles to accomplish different sounds. Yeah, and just like years and years of practice and playing with it and understanding and taking proper vocal breaks if I tried something and didn't try it right. It's like, okay, now I gotta rest. I made a mistake. I'm not just going to keep pushing through. And just remembering that your vocals are a muscle and not just an instrument. And the culmination of all that has just led to me being able to, scream or whatever, do harsh vocalizations, almost more naturally than I can like speak or sing. Like it's just a lot of fun for me. And I it's like, plus I got a 5-year-old now, so I can be like, play monster dad and just like kind of Frankenstein around the house while he laughs and runs away, just going like, and he thinks it's the funniest thing ever. So it's great. It's impacted my life outside of metal even a lot more than I thought it would. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it seems like a lot of fun.
I think so. I like doing vocals. It's like it's definitely the big draw for me, and what pulls me in is just how much I love to just make these silly noises.
Yeah, because I remember I was watching an interview with Corey Taylor, and they got him on an episode of Doctor Who, I think, to
Oh, that's
voice one of the
cool.
monsters.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. There are a lot of like harsh vocalists or screamers or whatever that have been like starting to kind of dabble in voice acting for video games, for TV shows, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's great. Like we all need to expand. Like there's no reason for us not to be going out and breaking into other art mediums and like using our talents in other ways, because like that just improves other art and our own visibility out there, right? More people will go, oh, that guy that voiced that character in this video game is also in this death metal band, and fall down that rabbit hole. I mean, like, people do that kind of stuff all the time. So, yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people discovered Avenged Sevenfold, because they're in like that bonus clip of, was it Black Ops or something?
Yeah, or even just Guitar Hero. Like Guitar Hero, what was it, two or I think it was three, had so many like metal band. It had that Dragon Force for like the finale was like the big thing. Like, can you play Dragon Force? Can you 100% Dragon Force on Guitar Hero? And that, so many people discovered metal from video games, and I think that yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think I love anytime I see or like, I mean, there are even so many people within this scene that are working in the video game community. Eric Brown from Necrogoblicon did did most of the music, maybe all the music, and at least some of the sound design and stuff, I believe, for Sea of Stars, which was on like the Switch and then is now on like PC and Xbox and everything else. But that was like a big, really cool, almost like Chrono Trigger-esque, like fantasy RPG, turn-based RPG that came out last year. And I've seen tons of people that have been. I still got to play it. It's on my list. Like I said, dad mode things. I just all my entertainment piles up, and I'll have to catch up. He's almost in school finally this year. He starts elementary school, and I'll have a little bit more time to be selfish. But for now, it's been a struggle.
That's totally fair. Do you have any favorite album releases of 2024 so far, or any that you're looking forward to, or?
Oh, I mean, there are tons I'm looking forward to. Obviously, Black Dahlia Murder. Trying to think. I forget like which albums have come out this year and which ones came out last year. Um, as controversial as it was I did really dig the new Hour of Penance album, even though they used the AI art and then weirdly had like a weird defense for it. I was like, could
I
have just
haven't
said nothing.
I haven't
But
heard about this.
oh, they use like yeah, they use some AI art, which like whatever. I, I it's not my thing, but like I'm not gonna be like just crazy anti AI art because I think it's just like some people are gonna do it. I whatever. But then they came out with like this like it's inevitable an art is dead like kind of rebuttal, and I was like that's just weird. Like you're an artist, like you're making music, like just a weird. It was just weird. I kind of like it like threw my vibe off when I was trying to get into the album, but it was really cool. Man, I know there are tons of good albums that have come out. Oh, Veil and Ath released an album. We just toured with them, and that was really sick. I dug it. It's like more black metal vibe. But that was a lot of fun. God, I'm sure I have tons of friends too that have come out with albums that I'm just like completely blanking on because I'm terrible at remembering. I put the stuff and I add it to my list on my phone and then I just shuffle everything usually, right? Um, yeah, but yeah, I mean just check out. I know Brat on our label. Brat put out an album that has just been like making waves. I've seen tons of people just super stoked on them, and it
I
sounds
got
super.
to interview them.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're a lot of fun too. Some of their music videos just had me cracking up so hard. And then they got on Summer Slaughter. Yeah, they got on Summer Slaughter, which is super sick. And
Congrats,
then
Brat.
yeah, congrats. And then Undeath. Yeah, Undeath's new album. Yeah.
You're just naming
That's-
people I've
Yeah,
interviewed.
Undeath is amazing. There
I
were
saw.
actually, sorry, fun fact. The guitar that our guitarist is using in our video for our newest single, "Return to the Soil," is he bought off of I believe Kyle from Undeath, their guitarist. So
That's
that's
so
like an
funny.
old Undeath guitar.
I saw them open for Municipal Waste last year, and they were so, so good.
They are wildly amazing. They're top tier like old school death metal revival. Like they're kind of actually. I got their wall flag right there.
Hey. And they're super nice dudes as well.
Oh yeah, super nice dudes. We've hung out a couple times. Actually, when they were touring with Black Dahlia Murder, we hung out with them quite a bit. Oh man, and I got the COVID vaccine that day too, or like the day before. No, it was the day before. I had gotten like a booster or something, and like so had Ryan. We had just gotten the boosters, and we were like sitting there. I was like, man, I'm getting a headache. He was like, me too. We got home and like we were messaging each other, dude. I feel like like it was bad. It was rough, but hey, we didn't get COVID, so
Way.
not at that show, anyways.
And we're on to our last question, believe it or not.
Sweet, let's do it.
Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to start a band in 2024?
Yeah, lots. Realize that it's going to be a massive grind if you're trying to do it anything for more than fun. So, like, unless you're willing to, like, just eat a world of shit, just, yeah, just be aware because it can kill, like, the passion for a lot of people. And it's hard to keep the passion if you're, like, grinding it out, especially, like, when you're a younger band and stuff. So, just keep that in mind. But if you are going to push, like, and there's nothing wrong with doing a band and just doing it for fun and playing like regionally or, doing whatever, like, there are all kinds of ways to make music. You don't have to like shoot for touring and shoot for all this. If you are going to like try and take it that seriously, just know like you got to grind. Make sure that you're putting out as much content as you can that's solid. You don't have to just put out needless, useless garbage content, but just like make sure you're just creating and going to shows, be professional. Like when you're playing shows, like the biggest thing you can do, like a band, if you're going to open for a touring band and you want to You want to show them that you're like the real deal and that you're, pushing for being serious and professional. Like the thing that's gonna do a lot more than like having backdrops or trying to bring your own lights as an opener or something is like being able to go up there, crush your set, play super proficiently, and then like as soon as you're done, be able to like get your gear and unload it. Because if you watch like touring packages, especially in like death metal where we don't have like tons of roadies and any of that kind of stuff, like these bands are getting their gear on and off. And like anytime we see a local band that like goes up there and crushes their set, and then as soon as they're done, they're like stripping their gear off and like getting out of the way, and then asking, hey, like we've had local bands that are like, hey, you need help loading up. It's like we remember that, it's like that's like always awesome to see, especially with like younger kids. It's like, holy cow, these kids like could be, they they could be coming up quick. Like that stuff is always a good impression to make, and you can like make friends like a lot quicker by a little bit of like professionality in that regard. I think like it can go a long way. But yeah, and just keeping up with the grind, put out music, and understand that like even if it doesn't catch, like you're creating art, right? And that's the number one thing. And like do it for yourself beyond anything else. Like there, any external goals are gonna come and go, and like any external pressure or whatever, like none of that is gonna be able to withstand your drive. As long as you're pushing for it, like you're gonna be rewarded in one way or another. Like even if it's not, even if you don't like make it big or whatever, like you're gonna make awesome art. So just keep pushing at it.
That is some really, really sound advice, David.
Yeah, sorry it was a bit long-winded.
No, that's good. Like the people need to know. Thank you so much for sitting down with me, taking the time out your day to answer my questions.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. I always have fun doing these things. It's a
No
good time.
problem. And Under the Reviled Throne is out now.
Yeah, check it out.